Good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening to the people here in Nevis, those in St. Kitts, those in the wider Caribbean. Good evening to our friends and family in the United States and Canada, those in the United Kingdom. Wherever you are, good evening to you. It is an absolute pleasure to be back here with you on another Wednesday evening. My name is Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis and host of the On the Mark program. I've been here through the grace of God and the generosity of the law firm of Daniel and Brantley, who have sponsored this show for the last 14 years. They've been our sole sponsor, and so we thank them because through their generosity we've been able to do this show commercial free, and many people have benefited from the show. We have made this platform available to various groups who have come with something of importance that they would wish to discuss. Over the years, the platform has been built and the platform has endured. It has been built through hard work and dedication and commitment. That people know that on Wednesdays this program is here, but it's also been built by you, those who listen religiously to the program. I'm wearing a mask this evening because I have a guest, and the rules here are, of course, that we wear the mask once we have guests, and so I just wanted to explain that. If the guest leaves at some point, then I might be able to take the mask off. But for now, we are masked crusaders this evening. Good evening to one and all, wherever you are. I want to wish you a pleasant evening and trust and hope that you're doing well. For those in colder climes like Canada and the United States and the United Kingdom, or wherever you might be in Europe, please stay warm, stay safe. There's a lot going on with COVID and the COVID-19 situation. We continue, of course, the battle here. And just this morning I had occasion to send out an appeal asking our people to go out and get vaccinated. We keep talking about that, but we'll have an opportunity to get into all of that. I won't delay my guest. He's here for the first half an hour of the show, and I will allow him to introduce himself so that we can get into the show. However, before he does so, please allow me to extend birthday greetings to my neighbor, Lincoln Williams, better known to many as Timbal. He is in Connecticut and is celebrating his birthday. I want to extend the birthday greetings to him and to wish him all the very best. Let me also wish birthday greetings to my good friend Puck. He's celebrating today as well. And to all who might be celebrating, please accept my birthday greetings and trust and hope that you had a wonderful day today. For all of those who are celebrating later this week or who have celebrated this week, happy birthday to you. For those who might be in some difficulty, who are grieving loss of a loved one, who might be hospitalized, who might be struggling with COVID, please know that you're in our prayers, and we wish you all the very best, that you're comforted in your hour of grief, and that for those who are ill, that you'll soon make a speedy and fulsome recovery. With those few words then, it is 4 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock. This is at the top of our show. We go until 10, but I will allow my guest, who is now with me for the second time in a very short space of time, to introduce himself and to tell you all about why he's here. Good evening to you, sir, and welcome back to On the Mark.
Good evening, Honorable Premier. And I love to say good evening to everyone who is listening. I know that the listenership for this show includes persons from all over the world, but also special greeting, of course, to the wonderful people who are here on Nevis and on St. Kitts. My name is Mario Phillip, gender officer in the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs, and I want to say thank you, Honorable Premier, for having me again for the second time this month. And it's because we have quite a bit going on at the Department of Gender Affairs. And this evening I'm here to inform your listeners and let everyone know that the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is upon us. And 2021 will be the 30th anniversary of the global celebration of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Now, this was launched in 1991 by the Center for Women's Global Leadership, and it runs annually from November 25th until December 10th. So every year from November 25th, which is recognized as International Day Against Violence Against Women and Girls, and going all the way to December 10th, International Human Rights Day. these days are etched out for a focus on a crusade against gender-based violence. And we of course know that violence of any sort does nothing but bring us down and divide us and destroy our families or communities. And so I find that it is fitting that across the world we take this moment for pause to assure survivors of gender-based violence that we are with them, and also to speak loudly and clearly to those perpetrators of gender-based violence that we cannot tolerate it, and of course offer help to them as well. And so that's the focus for our department. We do it year-round throughout the calendar year, but there's a special emphasis during these 16 days where the theme for this year's campaign is Orange the World, End Violence Against Women Now. And so orange is the color for the 16 days of activism, and I'll be talking a bit about how the public can join us by wearing orange, showing their solidarity, of course, with survivors, and just being a part of the message, oranging the world. And something about the theme for this year, it has some immediacy with it, right? End violence against women now. Right? And of course, gender-based violence affects both men and women, but it affects women to a greater extent, a largely greater extent. And so that's the special emphasis for this year on women, and then the immediacy now. So that jumped out at me, because sometimes we can tend to drag our feet. Sometimes we may be a bit soft and tolerable. Sometimes we know that gender-based violence is happening around us, but we say, that's not my business, that's their business. But it's a call for each person to do what they can do to bring an end to this scourge. And gender-based violence is violence against any individual because of the agenda. Right? And domestic violence is a large part of that. So if boyfriend is beating girlfriend, or vice versa, or wife beating husband, or the other way around, that makes up a large part of it. But there are cases of gender-based violence that doesn't include intimate partner violence. So there are hate crimes, for example, where persons are just sexist and they prey on individuals. Rape is considered gender-based violence. And so, but the message is violence of any sort isn't welcome. It's definitely not welcome on the island of Nevis. That's our stance at the Department of Gender Affairs. And so, Honorable Premier, I want to share with you quickly some of the activities that we have this year. We have a full slate of activities in commemoration of this 16-day campaign, and especially so because we have formed a greater partnership with our counterparts on the island of St. Kitts. And so we'll be working with them. They will be coming to us and strengthening some of the initiatives that we have here on the island, and we'll be going with them to support them in the same manner. So the campaign kicks off tomorrow on the 25th of November. And so for our first activities on tomorrow, we'll have the commissioning of our gender-based violence mural, right? So it's sending a clear public message, and we chose the format of a mural because we wanted to get the message out there in our communities, not just to talk in some forums or speak on television. We wanted it to be right in your community. That's where we need the message to go. And so this year's mural is in Gingerland at the David Freeman Center on the wall, and it's already done, but they will be officially commissioning it and having that ceremony on tomorrow morning. We would also on tomorrow evening have what we are dubbing our Better Relations Seminar. And this seminar, it seeks to bring both men and women to discuss the issue of gender-based violence and its connected issues, and there'll be a presentation by Mr. Coffey. He's a counselor at the mental health department. He'll have a short presentation to kind of get the discussion going, and then we are excited to hear from the men and women who would be in the room, because sometimes we live in our small corner and we think this is how it is, and we think these are the answers, but we want to create a space, not keeping men and women separate. Our society doesn't work that way. We want to bring both men and women in the same room so they can share what affects them and what are their views, what they think are the solutions, and what they think the other gender could do, to alleviate the problems, and so we can have some clarity working together. That's the purpose of the Better Relations Seminar. And I would like to pause and thank some of our sponsors who have assisted us in this seminar. So Buju's Place and OMG Ice Cream and Buddy's Restaurant and Pizzeria, Divinity Touch, and also Natalie's Restaurant. They partnered with us because we realized that if we have better relations between men and women, we are already solving the issue of gender-based violence. It's a preventative action. And so we thank our sponsors for joining with us, seeing the importance of this. And of course, on that evening, tomorrow evening, there would be an address by the junior minister in the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs, and she would lay out the department's emphasis for the 16 days. We then have the official launch, because the 25th falls on a Thursday. We wanted to have a launch that is in the community again and engaging as many persons as possible so that the message can be shared. And so the official launch of the campaign will take place on Friday, the 26th of November. And this is an event that will be held at the Villa Grounds in Charlestown. And our counterparts from St. Kitts will be joining us. So I want to let everybody in Nevis know that we have St. Kitts joining us. So the Villa can't be more Kittitians than Divisions. We have to show, that we are serious about ending gender-based violence. We are serious about healing our community, for ourselves. And so that activity would kick off. We'll also have the Federal Minister of Gender Affairs, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton. So he'll be there as well, and other staff and NGOs from St. Kitts, they'll be joining us, and we'll have some performers as well. All ensuring we'll be ventilating some of the issues and sharing how we can get around them and get to some solutions, and really saying that we can each do our part. That's the thrust of that official launch, to say, hey, this is happening, this is affecting our communities, and we all have a part to play in ending it. And on Friday as well, importantly, is Orange Day in our schools. Now, on the 10th of December, the final day of the campaign, that culminates in an Orange Day for the general public. But of course, I think school would be out then or coming down to a close, and so we decided we don't want the schools to be left out. So all of the schools on the island, they would be having their Orange Day, right? So they can share with our youth, and of course that's very important to let them have an understanding from early that violence is never the answer, and that you should stand up to it as well. Because I think sometimes we do have the feeling, the understanding that violence isn't good, but even when we see it, to stand up to it now, that is the hard part. We sometimes say, okay, that's not my business, it's not happening to me, that has nothing to do with me. But it does, because if my brother is hurting, my sister is hurting, we're all in a small community, it would definitely affect me as well, right? So our schools would have their Orange Day on Friday, and they would also be engaging in a competition amongst the schools there to create a make a creative display, right, to share the message of ending gender-based violence, and the schools with the best display. They can be as creative as they want, and however they want to share that message, they would be receiving a prize from the Department of Gender Affairs. And I want to, this event isn't directly a 16-day event, but the following day after the launch, which would be the Saturday, the 27th, we're having Men Can Cook. And I spoke a bit about that before. And that is, I just want the public to know you can't afford to miss that one. It starts at 8 a.m. all the way to 6 a.m. It's
6 p.m.
6 p.m., sorry. Yes, and it's we're in collaboration with agriculture. It's a mini farmers market. There's an emphasis on eating local. And so you can come from 8 a.m. and get your produce. There'll be vendors and agro-processors, and persons selling food, the local and healthy food. That's the emphasis. And you can come and get them still of a deal, of course, cheaper than usual. And then at 12 noon, the competition starts, Grill Master competition. Now, I mention it because, one, it's an event you can't afford to miss if you're on Nevis. But secondly, we will be having what we call Street Beat, and it's impromptu interviews with the general public. Because one of the things that we have to do at the Department of Gender Affairs is education, public education, and also to allow persons to share and ventilate the issues that are so important to us, are impacting us. And so you may see us if you're at Men Can Cook. Somebody would come and ask your opinion, ask you to share, what you think, and, just engage so we can have some community dialogue. So that would be on the 27th. On Monday, the 29th of November, we'll be having a panel discussion with the Honorable Eugene Hamilton and a representative, the president of the St. Kitts National Men's Council, and also the Mr. Brian Dyer, director of the Nevis Disaster Management Department, and some other NGOs. And this panel discussion would be held at the Department of Gender Affairs in our conference room, but it would be streamed live on NTV. So that would be at 10 a.m. on Monday, the 29th. It will be streamed live. The topic is gender-based violence, poverty, and how that relates to gender-based violence. As you know, one of the things is when you have especially intimate partner violence, when poverty is in the mix, then you have a greater level of dependence. So the person who is hurting you may be the person that you depend on, then that leads to you not being able to get out of this situation. We'll be talking a bit about that and solutions and what you can do. And also men's role post-COVID-19. So the panel would be made up largely of men. So men are standing up and saying, we have a part to play. Gender-based violence is not a woman's issue alone. It's an issue for all of us. So don't miss that panel discussion live on NTV at 10 a.m. on Monday, the 29th of November. And of course, it will be rebroadcast later. It will also rebroadcast on ZIZ. Then on December 1st is World AIDS Day. And the Department of Gender Affairs would be on Working for You radio show on ZIZ live at 1 p.m. with the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet and other contributors. And the topic will be the link between HIV and gender-based violence. So I think that is very interesting to have that discussion. And of course, the persons living with HIV, it immediately brings on a whole host of other issues, and then to throw gender-based violence in that mix, you could understand how horrible a situation an individual would find themselves in. So we'll be looking at that with the Federal Minister of Health And so that's an important discussion to have on World AIDS Day. And we'll be doing that live on ZIZ, on the radio show Working For You. On Saturday, the 4th of December, the Shekinah Dance Theatre, they would be having their production 2021. And they are addressing social issues through dance. And so we hear a lot about activism, getting the word out, what we can do to stop these social ills, but there's also artivism, where you can use the art, whether visual or performing arts, to bring the message across. Maybe a softer touch, but it will definitely be a treat. The Shekinah Dance Theatre, their production will be at NEPAC at 7 p.m. on Saturday, December 4th. The admission is $20. You don't want to miss it. The department will be there as well. So after these issues are, addressed, ventilated, and examined through the art form of dance, we'd be there to give information, let persons know what they can do to get out of gender-based violence if they find themselves in it themselves, or just to give information for somebody who may be able to help somebody else. Let them know who they can talk to. Of course, they can contact us at the department, and we would be able to lend a helping hand. On the next day, on Sunday, the 5th of December, we have Write Your Own Script. Now, last year, we had Flipping the Script, and that was geared towards individuals who would have experienced gender-based violence, and we had some presenters, they found their way out of it. And so they flipped the script, as we said. They changed it, turned their lives around despite the challenge of gender-based violence. Some of them, they went to study, they started their own business to get their own income and dependence. And so we were sharing with the attendees how you could flip the script if you found yourself in that. Now, this year we're looking at a more preventative measure. So we're gearing this year's event towards young women and men below the age of 25, between 15 and 25. And so we're saying, write your own script. We want to share with them how you could not wait until you have the script messed up and then you want to flip it. We're saying, let's see how you could prevent this. What are the signs to look for if you are in a relationship and you realize, okay, things may be going down the wrong road? We're saying, take charge of your own life before you get there. And it's a relaxing event. It's an event that last year we had it at the Lime Beach Bar. So it is an empowerment event and a fun and entertaining event. So we are looking forward very much to have some engagement with the young people and write your own script, so they can know they have the power to take charge of their lives and not see themselves as forever dependent on somebody who is hurting them. That's not the best that we want for our youth. And the final day of the campaign, December 10th, that is International Human Rights Day. And this is the day we say to everyone, after all of this is said and done, we want to see the general public show their support, and we're inviting you to wear orange on that day. December 10th is Orange Day, and so the general public, they're invited to wear orange. We will have a public photo shoot at the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs. That's at the administration building in Charlestown, and so we'll have an orange arch set up, and we'll have photographers there. So if you're in town, you can pop by and get your photo professionally done to show that you are with this campaign. And of course, even if you're not in town, you can take your own photo and just post it to Facebook. You can tag us at Gender Affairs Nevis. That's our social media handle on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can show your support that way. And the thing is, when people may ask, well, what does sharing a picture do? Well, you're when somebody in the situation of being faced with gender-based violence, they see one person have up their picture and their status maybe on social media tagging the department, and they see 2, 3, and they say, oh, this is somebody I know. It gets them into a state where they can say, okay, I'm more comfortable. There are others with me. I'm not in this alone. So we want to say, join us on Orange Day. Of course, the school has their Orange Day on the 26th of November, but this is for the public. Everyone, all and sundry, show your support in a big way. And then our final event would be on the island of St. Kitts. So the campaign starts in Nevis on the official launch, that is. So St. Kitts would be coming over and joining us. And then it would be ending in St. Kitts. We'll be joining them to show support with them. And it's a convoy of awareness. That's a silent march that would take place through the streets of Bastia and culminate at the Independence Square. And that would begin at 4:30. And it will culminate in a rally. And of course, there'll be speeches and some activism as well. To the silent march really it's to commemorate the lives of those lost, right? Because even this year, and that's why we decided to end on St. Kitts, because just recently, I think last month, we had a case of domestic violence that led to the life of a young woman being lost. So it's a reminder that this is something serious, that we can't say that has nothing to do with me, because the life of one person being lost is one too many. And so we are happy to be joining St. Kitts on that convoy of awareness. Last year, St. Kitts came to us with one event. They had some silhouettes, some cutouts of persons that represented individuals who would have lost their lives to gender-based violence. And of course, some of them were from Nevis as well. And the silhouettes had the day that they were born and when they died and how they died. And it was so impactful to really stand before these life-size cutouts and to know that each of them was somebody who would be with us, who wouldn't be a silhouette, but somebody I could talk to and laugh with, and somebody who could still be raising their children and being productive in society had it not been for gender-based violence. And so that was really moving to look at them in a room and to have that, the gravity of that, weigh on me. It was impactful to me. And so it's a reminder that this isn't something that is frivolous, and we put all this effort into getting the message out and doing all of these events because this is something that we can end. All of us, citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, we have a responsibility, and we can do our part to end violence, gender-based violence, and violence of all sorts. And so that's what the campaign is about. The Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs, we are happy always to share the message and to encourage persons to get on board and say, join us, do your part and join us in ending gender-based violence.
Okay, Mr. Philip, I've given you a half an hour. I didn't interrupt because I know you had a lot of information based on the number of documents you had in front of you. But I want to thank you. I think that this issue is a very serious issue. It's an issue that has been with us, it seems, from time immemorial.
Yeah.
It's an issue that goes to the heart sometimes of who we are, what we are as a society, who we are as people. You're absolutely correct that many people don't get involved. They turn their head the other way and they say it's not have nothing to do with me. And I think a part of that really comes from the lived reality that oftentimes where there is gender-based violence, where there is domestic abuse, there's also this emotion called love.
Yes.
That is involved. And I had it said to me one time that one man saw another man abusing a woman and intervened, and it ended up that the man and the woman end up beating him. You have these kinds of stories that are told, and I think that we have a cultural aversion
to engage in. So when you
Yeah.
see that happening, we say that's their business. Oftentimes it happens and people contact the police get involved, and suddenly the woman or the man for that matter say, we're not pressing charges. We don't want to move forward. And so, it can be frustrating, I think, for people, even for people who are bold and want to stand up. That, of course, is no excuse. The reality is that you're absolutely correct that all of us have a role to play. Wherever we see violence of any kind,
Definitely.
we have a role to play if we are going to become the kind of society that we all want. So I want to commend you. I want to commend, of course, the team, the Minister of Health and Gender, of course, the Honourable Hazel Brantley Williams, and Permanent Secretary and Assistant Permanent Secretary, and the entire team for what I think is an excellent campaign, a campaign which is far-reaching, a campaign which I hope will have the impact that is desired, and really a campaign that's designed to change hearts and minds, and that is what we need to do. We need to become a kinder and gentler society.
Definitely.
So that is critical for us to do, and a lot of this which is continued to be hidden in the home and hidden behind closed doors. People go to work with a black eye, they say they fell down, this kind of thing. I think that we need to stop that. I'm happy you pointed out, however, that gender-based violence means violence against any gender.
Yes.
Because I think that a lot of times, and even when you said what the theme was of stopping violence against women now, it seemed to me that it had again shifted the focus to women. But you did explain that women are by far those that suffer most from gender-based violence. So I hear that. Of course, there's also the question of individuals in the community who homosexual individuals who may suffer. Those are involved in same-sex relationships. I think all of that falls under that wide rubric of gender-based violence.
Well, yes, definitely.
Right.
That's why we don't say, we used to say violence against women, but then we decided the global community, gender-based violence is the more fitting.
And I think it's appropriate because it means that you include everyone.
Yes.
And there's some men who are also abused, and abuse violence can be visited in terms of physical violence, but you also have, of course, the mental trauma, the emotional trauma that also happens. And some argue that is just as bad sometimes as the physical trauma. So that's the reality. But thank you very much, Mr. Philip. I wish this 18 days or 16 days? 16 days of activism, all the very best. And I trust and hope that all works out. I'm particularly pleased to see the collaboration between the two islands. It is a problem that, as I said, really dates back to time immemorial here, and we really need to change that culture. Men out there, if you're listening, please, your woman is not your child, your wife is not your child, and even your children, you shouldn't be raising your hand in any violent way towards them. So, more so. And something I realize, you don't need to comment, but a lot of men out there who have women, and the men are out there cheating on these women, are still the first men to come home and want to visit violence on the woman because they say the woman watch a fella down the road. And that always strikes me as very, very odd. Some of the things that we men folk, and let me focus on the men folk. I did say that some women abuse men as well, but the statistics suggest that it is predominantly a problem of men folk abusing women and abusing others, and I think it needs to stop.
That is true. Mr. Premier, that situation you mentioned, it's some of the causes of gender-based violence is sometimes things like self-esteem and so on. So you have men that experience that weakness, they don't believe in themselves. So if the woman watch somebody, that's it. It's like the worst thing in the world, and you visit violence on them. So those are some of the issues we really have to deal with, rather than putting a band-aid on it and so on. We really have to fix those things to stop gender-based violence. And
I think the other thing is, and I put in a plug here for a program that my government put in place, which is to provide seed money for female entrepreneurs. And I say that because we identify women and youth as two groups. Part of the identification of women had to do with the fact that we also feel that a lot of gender-based violence flows from economic dependence.
Yes.
So a lot of women who find themselves in that situation say they can't leave because they can't support the children, they can't whatever. And a lot of men who are the breadwinners use that.
Yeah.
So part of what we're trying to do also is to empower our people.
Yes.
So that you don't find yourself in a situation where you have to put up with abuse because otherwise your children can't eat or you can't eat. But rather to empower yourself, and that's why we encourage, of course, our girls and our women to seize these opportunities for education, for business empowerment, to go to CDU and talk to them about getting the seed money to start your own little business. All of these things are important so that ultimately people can have the independence to stand on their own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And to know that, listen, I don't need to take any nonsense from anybody.
That's right.
And so that, I think, is very important. So I think, again, very, very important initiative, 16 days. And so we look forward to that, and we trust and hope everything goes well.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Mario Phillip from the Department of Gender Affairs in the Ministry of Health and Gender, who has come to share with us his 16 days of activism. Quite an exhaustive approach, and we wish him and the ministry all the very best as they put this on to help us change attitudes, change minds, win hearts and minds. I think that is going to be critical if we're going to have the type of St. Kitts and Nevis that we really want, a kinder, gentler place. And so thank you, Mr. Phillip, for your time, and thank you for sharing all that information with us, the members of the public. Mr. Phillip has exited, so that means I can now remove my mask. I'm within the protocol here at Von Radio where only the best will do. And we now move into another phase of the show. Let me start that phase. I should have done so at the top of the show, so please forgive me, that we have had the very sad news of the passing of Jimmy Rollins. Jimmy was well known and loved by everybody. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about Jimmy. Jimmy was somebody who was involved in construction for many years. I know he worked with Strawny for a long time, Mr. Shiverton, and really a marvelous individual. Someone who had his family and was well known as a committed family person. I had occasion to speak to his wife, Hume. Hume, if you're listening, please accept my deepest condolences. But also his brothers. I think we have Alistair Rollins, we have Bal Rollins, surgeon, Alistair Rollins, of course, Anglican priest. We have also Jerome Rollins, who's the head of our NCDF. I confess that those are the Rollins brothers that come immediately to mind. I know that there may be others that I'm not as familiar with, but those three living here and contributing here. And Jimmy also was living here. Well, he has passed away quite suddenly, and I would really want to express my deepest condolences to his family that survived him, his lovely wife and children, and also, of course, his siblings that survive him. Jimmy, we will be missed. You were absolute delight. I know sometimes I would be at MEMS and you would show up with Bal to have lunch, and it was always a jovial time, always a good joke, and certainly you will be missed. And so let us please pray for the family. Let us remember them in our prayers. And as I always say, it is my fervent desire that the prayers of the multitude will comfort them in their hour of bereavement. We have lost Jimmy Rollins, and may his soul rest in eternal peace. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mark Brantley, and this is On the Mark. I will open the phones in a little bit, but I ask you to bear with me because, of course, we use the first half an hour of the show for what we thought was a very important cause, engaging with Mr. Mario Phillip on the whole issue of 16 days of activism to prevent gender-based violence. That allows me to segue now into another level of activism that we need, and that is on vaccination. We have heard a report made accurately that Nevis has been lagging badly behind St. Kitts in terms of vaccination rates. That St. Kitts is now, I believe, somewhere in the region of 85 or 86%. Nevis is still languishing at about 67%. And what that means, therefore, is that Nevis is pulling down the national average. It gives me no comfort to say so, but that's what the facts suggest. And so it is important, I think, that the people of Nevis take heed and pay attention. I myself have tried. I have gone out, I have spoken, I have encouraged, I have met with the guys in various places on the block, talked to them. We have rolled out various campaigns. But I do believe now that we need perhaps a month of activism for vaccination. It is quite clear that we started out with the AstraZeneca vaccine. and that AstraZeneca vaccine served us well. We initially got vaccines from the government of India through our diplomatic efforts with them. We thereafter got vaccines from the COVAX facility, and most recently we have again through diplomatic engagements procured Pfizer vaccines from the United States government. Those vaccines are here. Pfizer is FDA approved. Pfizer has been approved for those who are 12 years and over, and even now has been granted emergency use for those 5 years and up. We continue to encourage our people to take advantage of the opportunity for this free vaccine and to better protect themselves and their families. This, ladies and gentlemen, is no joke. It is no laughing matter. As we try now to reopen our island and our country, we need to have our people vaccinated. We need to reach certain thresholds so that we can feel more comfortable opening our doors. If we want to fly the gate, we have to ensure that our people are protected. I understand people have all kinds of ideas in their own minds, and it is, of course, entirely up to you to decide. I respect that it is up to you to decide. But it's also up to the rest of us to protect ourselves, including protecting ourselves from you, if it becomes necessary, because your choice should not be a choice that causes me or anybody else any difficulty or any pain. Put differently, we all have a responsibility to ourselves, but also to each other. I have seen families who have decided they're not going to vaccinate, and I believe that we have to take seriously what the science is showing us. And the science is pellucid. It is as clear as day that those who are unvaccinated, those who are not vaccinated, are at much higher risk of contracting COVID, of spreading COVID, of being very ill from COVID and requiring hospitalization, and of dying from COVID. If you want any evidence of that, my brothers and sisters, here on the island of Nevis, we have had 5 deaths attributed to COVID. 5. One is one too many. We have had 5. And you know what? All 5 were unvaccinated. None of the people that have died in Nevis were vaccinated. I think that speaks volumes. We're not saying that if you get vaccinated you cannot catch COVID. We're not even saying that you cannot die from COVID. What we're saying is that it reduces your risk dramatically. And that is what is important. Wearing a seatbelt doesn't mean that you can't die in a car crash. Wearing a helmet doesn't mean that you can't die in a motorcycle crash. But it reduces your chances of death or serious injury dramatically. And that is why the police will give you a ticket if you're not wearing your seatbelt. That's mandatory. It has been put into law. The reason they do that is because they wish, the government wish, the society wishes for you to protect yourself while you drive. If you don't have the car seat in the back for the child and strapped in, you get a ticket for that. It is mandatory that you do so. Nobody is saying that a child in a car seat strapped in cannot die in a car crash, or a driver properly seatbelt strapped in cannot die in a car crash. But the science is equally clear that those who take those precautions have a much lower risk of death and serious injury. And that is why the science has led the government to mandate that you wear a seatbelt, to mandate that you wear a helmet when you ride a motorcycle. I use those as mere examples to show where in the past the science has led us to certain conclusions based on the empirical data. Well, if you hear in Nevis that 5 persons have perished, have died as a result of COVID, and that none of the 5 was vaccinated, you compare that, 5 deaths due to COVID, none vaccinated, to now in Nevis, thousands of individuals. In fact, let me get the precise number for you, because I have it here on my phone. It might help me to make the point that in Nevis we have thousands of individuals who are vaccinated, thousands of individuals who are vaccinated. Let me tell you exactly. We have now vaccinated in Nevis some 6,205 individuals, adults, and some 1,298 children. No, forgive me, please forgive me. I'm giving wrong numbers. I have so many numbers on my page. We have in Nevis vaccinated 6,205 individuals who are adults, and we have an additional 296 individuals who are children who are vaccinated. So we have a total of almost 6,500 people who are vaccinated on the island of Nevis. In the wider federation, that number is now over 30,000. I say that to say this, that let me focus on Nevis. 5 persons have died from COVID, none vaccinated. 6,500 people are vaccinated, none have died, either from COVID or from the vaccine. It therefore says to me that the empirical evidence is clear that your risk of dying from taking the vaccine, your risk of dying if you are vaccinated, that those risks are minimal. We have 6,500. Nobody in that group has died from the vaccine, and nobody in that group has died from COVID. We have 5 individuals who have died, paid the ultimate price, and none of them were vaccinated. All were unvaccinated. To me, that says something that is difficult to ignore. I'm not even at this point going to get into all that empirical data, because I think our people are reasonable people. I think our people understand what we're talking about. They understand the ramifications of their actions or inaction. We have, for example, what looks like a very promising tourist season. It is the first time in 2 years that some people will be able to make a living. Whether it's our taximen, our tour operators, our hotel workers, our restaurant workers, or our business owners, it will be the first time. Four Seasons, I'm told, our flagship, has had a good Thanksgiving. That is still ongoing. We are also hearing that for festive, they are looking very good. They have already, I'm advised, well over 600 guests booked, and they expect many more because, of course, this is still yet early. We cannot get back to business if our people refuse to vaccinate. We cannot get back to business if we have such a significant population, over 30% currently, that are saying that they're not going to vaccinate for one reason or another. I am appealing, as the Premier of Nevis, as a Senior Minister of Health, I am appealing to our people, please to go out and get vaccinated. I'm speaking to too many who are saying they're going to do it, but they're not ready yet. They haven't found the time. And I'm saying to you that it is time that we protect yourselves and we protect each other. 5 deaths, none of them vaccinated. And I keep saying it because it speaks volumes to the danger of this disease to the unvaccinated. And so I'm begging you, I'm urging you, I'm encouraging you to go out and do what you know to be the right thing. It is also getting more difficult, brothers and sisters. The government is starting to talk about reopening the entertainment sector. Already we're hearing that the bars and the clubs, the concerts, the music festivals and the carnivals and the culturamas, that they are likely to be allowed. But if they are allowed, guess what? Vaccinated individuals will be the ones to benefit. Now, think about that. In other countries, you have to be vaccinated if you want to go even to the supermarket, to use public transport, to go into the bars and restaurants. You have to be vaccinated. I was in New York in September. I had to show my vaccination card to get into any restaurant in New York. President Biden of the United States has announced, I believe, it was starting on the 8th of November, that if now you want to visit the United States and her territories, you have to be vaccinated. So what happens with all of us with family in New York and Connecticut, in Boston, in New Jersey and Miami? We want to go and visit our family. Granny birthday is coming. Little Johnny had his first child. We want to go to see our grandchild. We want to go to see our niece and nephew. We want to go up to Lyme for Labor Day in New York. We want to go to Miami Carnival. Well, how are you going to get in if you're not vaccinated? And it pains me because I've heard some people say, oh, now America want it. I'm going to go and get vaccinated so I could go to the States. And I asked the question, how is it you are not prepared to vaccinate to protect your own country? Because you see, President Biden has put this rule in place to protect his country. He said, I don't care who you are. You can't come to my country unless you are vaccinated, because he's following the science. And the science says that the vaccinated individual is better protected than the one who's not vaccinated. So Biden is sending a very clear message that he is protecting America. My question to you is, are you not also interested in protecting Nevis and in protecting St. Kitts? So when you're ready to vaccinate because you want to go and Lyme in Miami Carnival, and you're ready to vaccinate to do that, but you're not ready to vaccinate to protect your communities? All of us now have had some brushes with COVID. If you work in businesses, they've been closed down. Government departments have had to close. You constantly have this contact tracing. And every day we look at the dashboard to see what is happening. Praise be to God, it appears that now the numbers are way down. In fact, here again on our beloved Nevis, we have 14 active cases, 1 new case in the last 24 hours, and 1 current hospitalization. 5 deaths, and that stands out most for me. 462 cases total on the island of Nevis. I focus on Nevis because, as I said, we are lagging in our vaccination effort behind our sister island of St. Kitts. And we need to do better, and we can do better. And so I'm urging my brothers and sisters here on the island, please go out and get vaccinated. We have vaccines available at our health centers, and I'm urging you to go and do the right thing. Just as we see the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs rolling out their 16 days of activism against gender violence, so too we have asked and directed that they roll out a further campaign in relation to vaccination. We have been at it for some time. I now feel that we need to push again to remind our people of the dangers of COVID, especially now as the country seeks to open up, that COVID will come. We have to be prepared to meet it and to defeat it when it does. People are talking about the need now to live with COVID. COVID will always be around. That might be so. But let us be sure it doesn't kill any more of us. Let us be sure our hospitals are not overrun. Let us try to get a sense of normalcy back in our country. So I encourage you, please, to go and get vaccinated. It is important. The vaccines work. They cause you no ill, and they provide you with the best protection for you and your family against this dreaded COVID-19 virus. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 5 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. I'm going to open the phones now at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700 and take your calls. Those are the numbers to call if you are up and about and you want to be a part of this show. Just as a general reminder, while I wait to see if anybody calls, that we are opening the park at Pinny's on the 19th of December. We are hoping and praying that God grants us a good day that day, good weather, because we believe that the people of Nevis will be impressed with what we have been able to deliver to them as a park for their recreation and their enjoyment for the foreseeable future. Let me go to the phones then at 5 minutes to and say good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Michelle.
Good evening, my dear, how are you?
And I'm giving God thanks.
Good to hear your voice.
Going out to the Rollins family because of Jimmy.
Yes.
Matthew 7 verse 4 and 5. Or how will thou say to thy brother, let me put out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thine brother's eye. Good night, culture. Sympathies going out to all who lose their loved ones. May God continue to bless all of us, man. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I truly appreciate that. It is now 5 minutes to, and we continue to take your calls. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Every Wednesday evening we come here. We come here because we think that this is an important exercise, an important conversation that we have with members of the public. I say that this show is unique. It is unique in the sense that we invite all shades of public opinion, and we try to give everyone a fair hearing. We, however, ask that when you call in, you try not to be disrespectful in any way, because we will not tolerate that. We want to have a conversation, we want to have an exchange of views, and we want to be respectful while doing so. I think that the standards here demand that, and whilst we sometimes fail, those are the standards that guide us. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Okay, I don't know if I heard right. I don't know if I heard right a while ago. You mentioned Jimmy Rollins.
Yes.
So he passed off.
That's
Okay, well, I'm over on this side of the aisle, so you know how it is. Well, I just want to send out my condolences to the Rollins family, coming from Harvey Labor. They're part of our family, so sad to hear such, but I mean, you know, this is a process that we all have to go through, but we just got to be strong and hold fast. So to the Rollins family, I must just be encouraged and stand fast. Now, Mr. Brantley, I want to see you tonight. I realize that you have two other parties coming up against you alone, and I know you're a fighter. But I want to say to you, when the people of Davis wanted help, you were there to join the fight. And I want to say to the people of Nevis, if they know what I know, they stick with the people who were there in the trenches with them when they needed help. When we needed rescue from the so-called party that I will mention there, the Labour Party, I think it's Nevis Labour Party. Trust me, if we're going to go backward in this time, woe be unto us. We are supposed to keep going forward, because my Bible tells me, forward ever, backward never. And as long as we start to go backward, that means we don't know where we're leaving to where we're going. I want to say to the people of Nevis, stay focused. Don't let nobody Johnny come lately and try to run nothing over you and tell you they can do a better job. Some of them is already collecting pension, and they will not be able to contribute nothing to the country more than the little tax that they will buy in little thing here. And I want to say to you, you who still working and looking for a job to make sure that your family and your bills are paid, continue to be wise, unionize, stick with the party that been there for us when we was in the trenches, when we needed help. Because I could remember Mr. Hamry worked so hard to keep CCM running. And now after it's been handed over to you, Mr. Brantley, I want to say to you, continue to keep the people of Stinkis and Nevis especially, on the mark, and keep them going and keep them to realize, let them to realize that our country needs the best man to take care of their business, because tax money is something that we got to look at. When you pay your tax, you must be able to see your tax dollars spent. We cannot put it in a junkie sailor, come back and spend money like we used to a couple of years ago. God forbid. So you continue to do what you're doing, and I'm with you 100%, and I know the people of Nevis will stand with you when the time is right. God bless you. Have a good time.
Thank you very much for that, brother. Really appreciate the comment. And, you know, you make a good point. And I think it's a point that needs to continually be reinforced. Where were so many of these people who now come to offer themselves to the people of Nevis? When we marched through the streets of Charlestown, because our brothers and sisters' names were removed from the voters list by the NRP in the dead of night, where were these people? Did you see them with any placard marching? Did you hear them? Where were they? When we fought for a better deal for the island of Nevis and for Nevisians, did you hear any of them, their voices raised? When the NRP rounded up our Caribbean brothers and sisters from Guyana and Jamaica and the Dominican Republic and sought to deport them and then to put in the immigration system a warning that these people could never return to our country, something reserved for terrorists, where were their voices? Because they all lived here, you know. All of them lived right here on the island of Nevis while all of this was going on to their neighbors, their fellow villagers, the Guyanese community who suffered disproportionately. Did any of them raise their voice and say this is wrong? Not one. Not one. No. They seek political office. And so they found a voice. Some of them, as you say, after their social security check already start to come. And I have no problem with those who are collecting social security and feel they still have a contribution to make. But I would have liked at least to see a life of contributing. Not a Johnny come lately. Not somebody who one day they have no interest. Not only no interest in politics, but no interest in people. And then because of a number of factors which will become clear as we engage in a campaign, you just see them kinny cat. You hear the word? That's a uniquely Nevisian word. Kinny cat. And suddenly, the leading political party, their political party candidate, and you ask what is your history of involvement? Because politics ultimately is about people, you know. If you go to a Guyanese house in Cane Garden and ask them to vote for you, you go to a Spanish house down in Charlestown somewhere and you ask them to vote for you, you go to Bath Village and you speak to the Guyanese community, you go and you look for a house and there's Jamaicans living in there, and you say vote for me, they have every right to ask you, where were you? Where was your voice when we were being victimized by your party? Where were you? I remember, and I could say so because it is a matter of record, that the NRP, when they were in office, heard that a young barber here in Nevis, a fellow they call Shemarko, that he and I got along. Shemarko was not a registered voter. Listen to me carefully. Shemarko came here from the Dominican Republic. He was not a registered voter. He had a business, a barber shop. He still does. His wife. They had a young child born here in Nevis. I remember the wife with the child in her arms, a baby. And because they heard that he and I got along, they sent the police to pick him up. Revoked his work permit that he already had, and put he and his wife and a little baby up there at the Charlestown police station to be deported the next day. You hear me? I am not making this up. Picked him up, his wife and his child, his baby, the baby born here, you know, to be deported the next day. Put them up at a police station. Treated them like common criminals when they are not done anything. All because they say the fella and Mark Brantley getting along. But Mark Brantley has a law firm. So we went to court. And in a landmark decision, the court rapped the NRP on its knuckles and said to them, you're a bad government, you can't do that to people. There was no basis, no justification. The young man had done nothing wrong. But that was the disregard that they had for the foreigners, for the non-nationals. They disregard. On a Friday afternoon, you couldn't be in town drinking a beer if you were Guyanese. Sometimes we need to remind people of these things, you know. You couldn't be in town drinking a beer if you were Guyanese because police coming looking for you. Down there by Longstone House, they used to have a bar. Police looking for you to pick you up. When we looked at those 203 people that were taken off the voters list in the parish of St. John's, the constituency number 2, the vast majority of them were non-nationals. Two members of the NRP went into Cane Garden. So they're taking names and numbers for some program they wanted to do. People didn't know that the program was to go back in town and take the name off the list. Why? Because they say Guyanese support CCM. That was why, you know. Break up families, break up relationships. Shamarko, for example, had a business here, he had a vehicle, he had loans. They don't care about that. Pick them up and deport them. Treat our people, our own people. When I think about people from the Dominican Republic, many divisions went to the Dominican Republic to seek work. When there was nothing here, they went there to seek work to sustain their families back home. How easily we forget. But they went after them, victimized them, treated them like dogs. Let me tell you something. To get a work permit on the NRP, a lot of these non-nationals, they couldn't go directly to the government. You know, you're crazy. They had to go to a family member of one of the ministers. You hear me? A family member of one of the ministers and an activist. They were in the business of work permits. You know what I mean by that? If a work permit costs $1,500, these poor people had to pay these criminals an additional $1,000 for them to get the work permit for the worker. So if I come in and I say, my name is Mark Brantley and I'm coming in from Guyana, Linden in Guyana, and I reach here, I come from Buxton, and I reach here, I have a job, you know, I need a work permit. I can't go and nobody could apply for a work permit for me, just so I had to go through, you know what I say, a brother, family member, and an activist, and pay them extra because they had a business of getting work permits. Them strippings don't happen under CCM. So my question is, where were all of these? So caller, you're right. You asked a very important question. Where were they? Where were they? Because they never, it looked like they were blind, deaf, dumb. They used to go down the street like those horses you see with the blinders on. They don't see nothing, don't hear nothing, they don't know nothing. All of a sudden, oh, we're so in love with everybody. We're here because we have the best ideas for everybody. We want to protect everybody. And they love you, love you, love you, love you, know, love you long time. But for all of this time, when people were under pressure, when people were struggling, people were suffering, where were they? And I believe, caller, that is what you're talking about. People must stand up with who stood up with them. People must stand up with who stood up with them. Divisions in this island. There was a time in this island when every infrastructural job was given by the NRP government to a foreign firm. Everyone. NIPAC was built by a foreign firm. Island Main Road by a foreign firm. Drag strip by a foreign firm. You go around the island, you look for infrastructure, foreign firm. When we in opposition protested that our own local people are not being given an opportunity, a man no less than the Premier of Nevis, Joseph Parry, said to us as Nevisians, when our young men come back and young women come back as engineers and surveyors. And all of that having gone and spent 5-6 years to train. They don't know what they're doing. Let them practice, learn how to drive. He said, I gave them a road in brown pasture. That's a village road. Let them go and practice on that. That was his justification for giving all the work to a foreign firm, because our own people are not good enough. I didn't say so, he said so. CCM has said that can't happen in Nevis. Why is it that a young man in Nevis who went to the same school as a Jamaican or Barbadian, same class, maybe even graduate higher than them, but because they're from Barbados or Jamaica, they reach here? And our young man employed in public works, he's told, go sit down. You're not good enough, you must go practice. Go up on Pasha, learn how to drive up there. But his colleague who he performed better with at Mona, better than at Mona, or at Hewden, I'm sorry, forgive me, at St. Augustine, that colleague now is the engineer on a big job, doing a big road in our own country. Where were the voices that condemned those kinds of practices? Where were they? Point me to one of those who now stand up and say, here I am, send me, from the NRP. Whoever uttered a word in condemnation. Tell me. I mean, that is the concern that we have. You had people who heard no evil, saw no evil, just were oblivious to what is happening. And all of a sudden there's been this metamorphosis, there's been this transformation. The caterpillar has now become this beautiful butterfly. And they're saying, oh, I was asleep, I was in my cocoon. For 20 years I saw nothing, I said nothing, I helped no one. But oh, look at me now. A beautiful butterfly, vote for me. That's how it go? Is that how it goes? Where is the track record of service, of involvement in the community, of assistance to people? Because you now name politician, you start to go to church every Sunday and take picture. One of them was doing it, he ran against me. Say you don't believe in God, but think that you could fool Nevis people. So the minute he announced, he started to go to church, take picture. But they think God is mocked. God is not mocked. Ask him if he gone back to church since the people broke in the tailpipe. Ask him. Used to be down in the square, taking picture, say he providing lunch for the guys in the square. The guys in the square never eat until he got into politics. And they ain't eat since he get broke in. Forgive my language. Since he was soundly beaten at the polls. You see, I'm using that, because I see this feeding thing start again, Every weekend, oh, free breakfast, free lunch. We're doing free. Free. My heart has been set free. Free lunch, free breakfast for everybody. Come and get something free. I think Nevis people stupid. I think Nevis people mumu. Huh? Some of you for 20 years you live in this island. You never know people eat breakfast. But now every weekend you have free breakfast. Well, people must stop and say, well, is this genuine? And I think that's a legitimate question. Because we had an example of a man provide free lunch in the square. Think he did it twice, take a bunch of pictures all over social media. He said, Father, Christmas is back. And then, after he was soundly whipped, he forget that the fellas in the square to eat. Never pass back. You go from rice and chicken and vegetable to not even a hot dog, not even a biscuit. Never pass back. These things speak for themselves because they come from a point which is not genuine. They come from people who are not genuine. They come from people who have no history of being involved in the community. They come from those who they call as described as Johnny come lately. Because really and truly that's what they are. And they're not even Johnny come lately with some energy. Johnny come lately pensioners. Pensioners. Them not got no verb, vim and vitality. You see me here, I'm full of vim and vitality. Strong like an ox. Ready to walk. You see Alexis Jeffers? Oh my goodness. You see Spencer Brand? You see us? You see Eric Evelyn? You see us? And then you see my yet unannounced candidate in the great parish of St. Thomas. Strong, young, vibrant, have ideas and energy. Then you look on the other side, now you see some people there who used all of their energetic years for themselves. Never thought of nobody in the community. Never thought of making any contribution. Never involved themselves with anything. And now at this stage, after securing their pensions and their social security benefits, they come now and say they want to lead you. At this stage, no history, no demonstration of any desire to help, no opinion on anything. They never joined in the fight for divisions, never protested when your names were removed from the voters list, sat back. You know what they say? If you sit there in silence, then you're part of the problem. Just as the young man came and spoke to us about gender violence, if you sit back, and you're part of the problem. Let me go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Caller, please call back 869-469-1616 or 1700. Let's try again. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Brantley.
Good evening to you, brother.
How are you doing?
I'm good, man.
Well, you sound like you drink pepper sauce, man. Well, I want to tell you something, Brother Brantley.
Yes.
A lot of people who have a little tuppence with me put aside still, but nothing coming to put on that, so they got to pinch our piece and put it back and make sure that nothing trouble it. Because this COVID thing is what caused that. But this COVID thing, you know, is something like what you all had COVID. I think it's 2000 some time ago, when them who's supposed to feed you, they cook and you see food in the pot and they tell you, well, you want in the kitchen, when you go in there, nothing in there. That means they cook food and then again on. You know what they're telling you in the thing of break the Bible law? Go get thief. Because you must eat like them. So when they bounce the check, I ain't stop talking about that, you know. When they bounce the oil and check, they tell the whole of Nevis people up there, are you got thief, are you got nothing for spend to eat? And they go cut off, we can cut off all your lights, cut off all your water, everything. Cause see this check here, you won't taste nothing out of this here. You won't yet cananak out of this here. Before so, you barely kidney cat over for food because you ain't gonna eat. So them people they know who come in I'm telling a lot of lies on Weibo show on Tuesday night about you. Where they was when that happened? Why they never open them out and tell them that it is wrong? People work and they must get their money.
And let us not forget while you're talking that the NRP was in the federal government when this thing happened there.
That's what I mean.
Okay? They were sitting at the table in Bastille when the decision was taken to bounce the checks of the public servants of the island of Nevis.
Yeah. Sitting down there showing teeth with ingenuine smile, watching them starving his own brothers and sisters and family and neighbors, everybody in Nevis. And that wasn't nothing bad. That was good. That was good. And none of them opened them out and condemned that kind of behavior. None. But all it now, so now, look what the CCM do for the people of Nevis, for the island of Nevis. Look at all the work. 120 something construction work going on. I'm going to repeat. And they say nothing to do. Nothing to do. Oh my goodness, if we repeat. How people could be so daring to tell what something happening and say it not happen. Brother Mark, I want you please tell the people and remind them, you know, see what them NRP and them down here do. The Labour Party, they join together to kill the Nevis people with starvation. Not no bone and rice and pepper and soup, no, you know. You ain't gonna even got copper to buy bone to put in soup. Anyway, I'm going to continue to listen. Good night, cutie.
All right, my brother. Well, you know, I'm very grateful that you've said that. Somebody, because I check my phone when I'm here because people sending me good information. Somebody send me a message at local, an Vision, friend of mine. He says, and let me read it. Up to now, a Guyanese friend of mine cannot get back his passport from one of them since when NRP was in power between 2006 and 2013. He took his passport saying he will help him with his work permit. Up to now, the fella can't get back his passport. Here is what another one said. Just imagine I live with my wife and daughter. My name was taken off the list, but not the wife and the daughter. You all think this thing is a joke? This thing is a serious, serious situation. You raised a point there when you said if public servants check was bounced. I mean, we are not making this stuff up, you know. Patrice Nisbet was a member of the Denzel Douglas-led administration. The Labour and NRP were in coalition, sitting together in Bastille. On that day, it was a Wednesday. They bounced the check of the Nevis Island government, John and National Bank. And I asked myself the question all the time, where was the Nevis man when this decision was taken? I want to see which Prime Minister could sit down in any room with me, Mark Anthony Graham Brantley, or with Alison Jeffers, or with Eric Rowan Evelyn, or with any member of the Concerned Citizens Movement, and say to us, we're going to take a decision to hurt the people of Nevis. And we sit down there and say, okay, we agree. And when this thing happened, where were the voices? Where were they? You know, the irony of irony, scholar. At least one of them who's running check was bounced, you know, because that one used to work for government. I never hear them come out and say the party now that they seek to serve was wrong. No. Let's go back to the phones. We're taking your calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Mark.
Good evening.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm okay, thank you.
Well, where were you before you came into politics? Everybody know you're a pronoun. You know, she go on and take your sheep and goat.
Where was I?
Yeah.
Well, man, if you didn't know where I was, then you weren't paying attention.
I mean,
I was here.
About you after Malcolm, you know.
No, man, that's when I entered politics.
Oh, well.
But prior to that, I sponsored everything that was going on in my constituency. Football, cricket, sponsored the debaters for 3 years, got vehicles for the police, was involved in radio program with Let's Talk, was involved with On The Mark. I wasn't involved in politics them days. Provided free work to people, free legal work. I was involved in everything. Wash your foot and come. I was there.
Another question.
Yes.
When we don't got two-term government for Nevis, he's still doing the same thing for Timothy Harris.
When you will get a what?
A two-term for Nevis.
I don't understand the question. What do you mean when you will get a two-term? We've had more than two-term government.
It's federal government. It's a two-term for Timothy. When we don't got two-term for Nevis.
Well, that matter has not been discussed in Nevis, but I'm open to that discussion. I think it's a discussion. I'm sorry?
You know, I think it needs to be looked at.
Well, I'm saying it is a discussion that we ought to be open to. I don't think there's anything wrong with it as a discussion. The discussion is happening in the federal context because that is what Timothy Harris, Sean Richards and Vance Amry agreed to. So that was an agreement that was done as a part of unity. So that is why that discussion is there. But I think that it is an important discussion to have in Nevis as well.
Sometimes, the other guys in the party need a chance to get leadership,
Well, I agree with that. I certainly agree with that. Nobody should hold on too long. I certainly agree.
Yeah, But with the ladies now, women all over the country, Change must come. We need a change, man. Give the girls them a chance,
Well, I don't know. You make a change just because it's a woman. That's how you operate?
No, not really. But, we are enough for the man, the lies and deception. Give the woman them a chance, you know what I'm saying?
So women don't lie?
Well, everybody lie, but we just need a change, man.
I'm trying to understand what you're saying, really.
Something different, man.
So you just want something different?
Yeah, man.
Okay. All right.
Little more. Have a good night, man.
All right. Well, thanks for that. I am not understanding, caller. You just want something different. So you don't mind if them have no ideas. You don't mind if them have no track record. You don't mind if they have never served in any way to demonstrate that they love you or they love people. You just want a change. Well, if that is the case, well, that is the case. But I know that the majority of our people don't think like that. People looking and they're looking for substance. People want to know. Well, all these things are happening in Nevis. You never say nothing? You never notice? Well, how come it's only since you're in politics you know that people want breakfast? You ever give a little scholarship to a child? You ever sponsor a little program in the church? I mean, where have you been? So, caller, you could say that talk about people just want to change. It looked to me like, as far as you're concerned, is anything will do. But for most people, they want to know, listen, if I'm going to go in a particular direction, I need to be inspired to go there. I need to know that that person will fight for me. Well, if they have no history in 60 and 62 years of fighting for anybody, well, what do you think? They're going to just get the history now? They're going to develop it now? Is that what you're saying? That is why I have a concern, you see, because some of the commentary don't sound to be serious commentary to me. People want to know, and how are you going to know? The only way you can know is to look at somebody's track record. You talk about me when I entered politics. People knew about me already. My community knew me. I was involved. When Eric entered politics, I said all the time that Eric was one of the few. Eric didn't enter politics, you know. Eric was called by the people. He was known as the mayor of Handys Road before he entered politics. Because every two can knock, Eric was there. Zook Jeffers, AYPA, cricket, basketball. I mean, involvement in everything that was happening in St. James. So when he put up his hand and said, send me, people knew him. You ever said that people know, people are asking, who you be, ma? Who you be? Where you from? Me never see you yet. And at their age, me not talk about young people. If you're a youngster of 23, 24, and people say they don't know you, you can say, well, I'm just starting out. We're talking about retirees who nobody know because they never engage with anybody. And that is the point that I keep asking. So yes, I mean, absolutely, women have their role. And women, if they have the ideas, have the capacity, I believe they run anything. They run most of our homes and they do a great job. But do you just say because you're a woman put you in charge? Equally, you shouldn't say because you're a man put you in charge. No, you should say, I want the best person to be in charge. The person who has a track record and has demonstrated within and outside politics that they have a contribution to make. A person who has shown the passion, the commitment, the dedication to fighting for others, because that's what you elect people to do, to fight for you. You can just elect because somebody's a man, or just elect because they're a woman. That can't be the answer. The answer is to elect people with the ideas who have come and have demonstrated that they're serious about governance. And so a lot of people putting up their hands can't point to anything that they've ever done. Except no, they tell me I love you a long time. Me never show you. But I'm telling you now, I love you a long time. Let's go back to the phones. No? Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening to you.
How are you?
I'm good, I'm getting a bad feedback. You on a cell phone or something?
Yeah. You still getting it?
Yeah, still getting it. Is it possible that you can just hang up and call right back? Hello?
Let me turn on the radio.
Caller, you there? Okay, caller, please call back. It might be just one of those things. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. If you can call again, let's try this one. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Brantley again.
Good evening to you.
Yes, good evening to you, Mr. Brantley. Yeah, I want to say to you that, do you remember that when the people of Nevis check was bounced when they asked for a guarantee in Sinkit. They refused to guarantee the check for the people of Nevis under Mr. Amri leadership. And you're telling me that the people of Nevis going to forget those things? No, not so easy. I don't have a problem with women being leading, but at the end of the day, we got to look for the best people to do the best job. We can't pick up any hanky-panky and put to be leaders, because the day of today we got to have serious men and serious women who know what they're about to govern a country. Nevis might be small, but trust me, we are Talawa, and we need people who know what they are doing to run the little island of Nevis and make sure that whatever they do it properly. Now, I want to show you something that I happened to pick up on Facebook, and I think it was Tuesday night. I happened to put on my tablet and I happened to pick up. There was a little thing at Van Radio. And this young lady that's running against you, he's saying, oh, you come on and you talk. And at the end of the day, it's more noise than what substance. But I want to say to you tonight, you've been there in the trenches with the people of Nevis when they needed help. When our country needed help, you were there. Look at this. When they were chopping up the boundaries, them trying to stay in power as long as they want because they own this little federation. You're the one who went and fought, go all the way to England for us to get this country back from those people that wanted things that it was given to them on a platter. And I want to say to the people of Nevis tonight that we got to be very careful who we pick up. We got to examine the hands, because there's plenty of them come to their sheep and they are wolves in sheep clothing. And I want to say to you tonight in closing that remember the young man over in St. James's who sit down in cabinet down here in Sinkit and allow all kinds of things to happen to people of Nevis, and he never said a word. Never said a word. I wonder what he brought back to Nevis after being sitting in the cabinet in the Labour Party for so many years. He was only thinking about himself, thinking about the people of Nevis. These are things that we got to put to the people when we get out here, to let them know that you got to look for people who look after your interests and your benefit at the end of the day, that whatever is shared from the table, as one man will say, come with a deep bowl on his spoon to dish out food when he don't wait in the kitchen when food that you share. I want to say to the people of Nevis, we got to be careful who we put to lead, because at the end of the day, we may very well put wolf in sheep clothing, as wolf is going to take all the food and leave none for the people of the country. So may God bless you as you continue to do what you are doing and what you know best to govern this little island of Nevis and make sure that Nevis gets his fair share. God bless you, have a good one.
Thank you, brother. And you know, it's interesting you mentioned fair share. Somebody just sent me a message. Mr. Brantley, you need to tell the people that when Patrice Nisbet was in bed with Douglas, Nevis used to get money from SID if it was a loan. I mean, imagine that. That NRP and Labour in a government together, and Nevis get money from our passport money, and it is called a loan. Huh? A loan. You remember the $4 million that had come somewhere in Craft House, somewhere darking around about the bush, to get to the Yahud family, they say, for payment of lands at the airport. A loan. Our money. You ever hear any of them talk about that? Another person sends you a message here. Said at least 2 of the NRP current candidates were civil servants when the checks were bounced. You ever hear them say anything about that? Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, brother Mark.
Yes, brother.
Good shot there from my friend Harvey Lloyd Woodman. Good shot. I want to tell you something, brother Mark. The other month, he got a Luno said that he wanted to sit down with Mr. Brantley, Denzel Douglas, and Sean Richard. Let he advise them how to run government, and you all must, you and Mr. Richard must come out from unity, because he gonna make sure that Timothy fall and unity fall. So may know what kind of advice he will give you, because you are on a different planet to down here. You control Nevis, but the other 2, they're down here, and one from the federal government. So I don't know what he will tell him, because all it knows so Because the other ones what you hear coming out of him out. Unity is not good. And the naming the Prime Minister ain't not good. All of them and unity ain't not good. Come to me. Come to me. It's only me know how to hold money and steal money. I wanted to be a minister in the government to handle money for them because they don't know how to spend money. Now, I want to know if there is a kind of advice you will give a sensible man like you. Because some of them don't throw Dr. Douglas down in the pit and they say all manner of evil. So all kind of thing by radio station every day abusing Douglas, and all of a sudden Douglas changed overnight. Just like how Canada make the change from St. Kitts Nevis people coming to Canada. Suddenly 12 o'clock, November the 23rd, 2014, overnight, that was made to stop us from coming to Canada. So he changed, all of a sudden he changed them, and unity is the worst. Up to today, he ain't on the radio, they're saying what? They come talking about bubble. What bubble? I want a bubble. I do what I want. I just feel, every time I hear them, I just feel like to box them and bust the bubble. And that individual has a business. And someone he tell somebody, he say he want a woman stand up by the door to control the people, and because he don't want the COVID to come in and spread. And now hear the ignorance, that person talking. So you see, a lot of them only got mouth because the mouth ain't stick down, they could open, but no sense coming from behind it. I go in now, but hear this question. You ever see any battleship with all women sail upon it? I'll continue to listen, Brother Mark.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And, people have their opinions, and that's fine. I focus, caller, on those who say they're offering themselves for public office. I think that that's important. That's a discussion that is necessary. I believe that when people step up, you must be willing to subject yourself to scrutiny. Reasoned scrutiny. I'm not talking about nonsensical accusations, which have no grounding or bearing in fact. I'm talking about reasoned scrutiny. And to say to people, well, all right, show us, tell us. What have you done? How have you prepared yourself? What are the commitments? What are the causes that you have fought for the people of Nevis? And if it is, the answer to that is none. I'm only now starting. They must really ask you, where have you been for the last 60, 62 years? Because you're not a youngster. So, you haven't given of your youth to anything to support or fight for the people of Nevis. You now come at the stage where you're a pensioner and a social security recipient to say that you now come to do it. And you must ask the question, what is the motivation? Is it that like you're Saul on the road to Damascus and you are converted? And so you're now Paul and you've come now to preach the gospel of the good news? Is that what it is? Well, if that's what it is, tell us. Tell us you had a road to Damascus moment. And you've now realized at your age that your calling is to serve people. And all the rest of your 60 plus years you never realized that. You now realize it. To me that is at least a story that you can come with where you just jump up, boops, out of nowhere. Can you catch yourself in politics and telling people, oh, you love them long time? Well, where was the love? When all of these things are being done to the people of Nevis, where was the love? And that's the question. Nobody seems to be willing to contend with. That's the question. Let me go back to the phones. 20 minutes to the hour. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Hello?
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Yes, Mr. Brantley, how are you doing?
Hearing you clearly now, brother. I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Brantley, I heard you said that no one who is now standing in the recent time putting up themselves to be politicians said nothing when wrong was being done between 2011 and 13.
No, not just 2000. No, Colin, not just 2011 and 13. You know.
When?
In 2006 until 2013.
Okay.
The wrong was being done for 7 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Brantley, I can recall clearly Patricia Bartlett came out and made a public, very, very strong
public statement against those wrongs. So I'm just reminding you if you had forget.
Which wrong she made a public statement against?
Remember, Brantley, you remember Patricia Bassett made a public statement?
I'm asking you which wrong?
About the wrongs that was been going on in the country.
Okay, so she spoke.
I am sure the tape is at Van Radio.
No, but I'm asking, we're having a conversation.
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm asking you to educate me and educate us.
Yes, go ahead.
Did she make a statement about all the wrongs I've identified, or she focused on a particular issue?
No, maybe not all, but in general, what she was saying, though, is that wrong things is going on, and she was displeased with it, and she did make a public statement.
Okay.
Not about, she didn't specifically say, name everything, but I'm just saying that I recall she made a very strong public statement against, in general, the wrong that was going on.
Okay. Well, I don't know the content of the public statement, but I shall certainly search for it, because that's good.
You remember it, though?
That's good that you're saying that Patricia Bartlett would have said something publicly. That's very good.
Yes, Premier Brantley,
yes.
She did.
Okay.
She did. Okay, good night.
All right. Well, thank you for that, and we will look for that, because I would want to know what she would have said. And if she did make a statement, I would correct myself and say kudos to her for making a statement. I don't know in relation to what specific issue. But the fact that I would not have recalled suggests that there was no consistency in an approach of speaking out and being heard and being a part of the process. But certainly, caller, I will look for that, because I would like to know for myself which statement it was, what the specifics of that statement might have been. That would have been important, because I've just laid out for you a litany of issues. A litany of issues. The treatment of the non-nationals. The victimization of people. The victimization of our own people removed from the voters list. The fact that we were borrowing money from the SIDF. The fact that I, Mark Anthony Graham Brantley, and Vision, born on Henley Park, grew up in Bromley, could not go on NTV. Could not go on NTV, to the point where an ad was done for a restaurant, and I was in the ad for half of a second, and they say unless he face come out, the ad can't hear on NTV. That was the nevis we have. I want to hear the voices condemning all of those things. I want to hear them, because that's my point. We live through an era here when some stood up and others were fast asleep. So, caller, I thank you for that, and I'm going to look for it, because I want to know for myself what was the specific issue that agitated one of the candidates to say something publicly. Because there were so many issues, and I have not heard anybody say of any of the others that they have ever commented on anything publicly or acted in any way, helped anybody, done anything, sponsor a sweetie, a little book bag, some back to school supplies, adopted a family, done anything. And that is why I know, just like those who find themselves in church and say they don't believe in God, those people start to wonder naturally, were you trying to fool me? Or you genuinely have a passion to go out and fight for causes that benefit me. And that's the reality, because we all know talk is cheap. We could talk, caller. But the actions, the standing up, the willingness, that is what we want to hear. Not just, I don't like Mark Brantley, so I'm going to cuss him. Or I'm not voting for him again this time because of whatever personal reason. That is not enough. What is your track record? That's what I'm asking. What is your track record? If you are a newcomer to politics at a particular age, well, point us to what you would have done. If the answer to that is nothing, then I have a concern. Let's go back to the phones. 1:45. We're taking your calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes. Good evening again. Yes.
Good evening to you.
So I happen to be on Facebook again, and they had a foundation open up down here some time ago, and I made to understand that a young lady by the name of Cleon Simmons, her name was mentioned, went to that Care Foundation opening, and her name was mentioned. So I'm saying, really and truly, that the people of News really want to come back and lie in bed with the Labour Party who have done so much wrong to the people of Nevis and never one day come back and say, well, we had made an error. And these are the things that we are saying. When people do wrong to the people of this country and cannot be man enough or woman enough to come back and say, I was sorry, I make an error, and I ask you to forgive me so we can move on. These are the things that we got to look at, because I always learn, when you wrong somebody, you should be man enough or woman enough to go back and say, I'm sorry. And these are the problems that we have with these people that are putting up themselves for office and trying to pull a sheet or covering over these things and then want to come and tell people, oh, I'm ready to serve you because this is not going right and that is not going right. Well, where they were when all the hardships, when we couldn't even get a ship coming to Nevis because everything was staying in one place, and at the end of the day you're telling me I could bring the tax from 4 seasons to St. Kitts and then we send back up a certain amount of percentage back to Nevis. Come on, man, we are better than that. Nevians are well educated and we can handle anything, because as long as we put our mind to do something, we can do it as good as anybody else, because we went to school too and we went to learn, we didn't went to eat lunch. So these are the things that we got to tell the people of Nevis. You got to be careful who are coming to represent you. Examine the hand. May God bless you. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you very much. I just got a message here all the way from the U.S. Here the message say, preach it loud and clear, Mr. Brantley. Just like you said, how quickly they forget. My mother's mother and my granddad went to the Dominican Republic in the 1900s to look work because of hard times were in Nevis at the time. As a result, my grandmother gave birth to 8 of her 9 children in the Dominican Republic. Only the first one was born in Nevis. Just thought I'd share with you. You see, people are listening and people are responding because people understand that the regional struggle and the struggle of our Caribbean civilization has been a joint struggle. So in happy treat non-national so bad. How? And a lot of people here got nothing to say about it. And here's a lady reminding us that 8 of her grandmother's 9 children were born in the Dominican Republic. 8. These things are important. We can't just put down our history and pretend like it never happened. So when, because of the grace of God, we are doing well enough that people can come from Dominican Republic and find work here and make a home here and contribute here, how can you support a government or a party in government that victimize those people? That means you're denying your own history. Let's go back to the phones. 10 minutes to the hour. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good night to the Honorable Premier. Good night to the Honorable Mark Brantley. Good night.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening. Yes, Mark. I didn't get to listen to your opening statement because I truly kind of late. But Mark, I just like say after things we don't talk about, I like say after you know? Because it has come with some positive things, especially in the time of this COVID situation, and talk to the people them, go out and take the vaccine, because we know that everybody vaccine can do, to ease the burden out of the Federation. And Mark, I telling you plain that I want to commend this unity government. First, I want to thank God for the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis, the country I born into and live into. Mark, I want to commend you as the Premier for Nevis. I want to commend the Honorable Prime Minister for the Prime Minister of the Federation. Because Mark, without you and the Prime Minister of the Federation and the Cabinet, we could not get it done. Without you and him leadership and this COVID situation. Now I hear all kind of negative talk within themselves them, and who don't like the country. And because of politics, they will look to see the country crumble. Or COVID come and kill everybody. That is how some of them just talk to me as far as I'm concerned. Because today I was listening to the next radio talk show. And a caller called in and was saying that they should open up the country because the 50 is a carnival. Let the people them go enjoy themselves. Let them get their fun. You ain't fear. You ain't fear. You ain't fear to the people them. I want to know if he's unfair to he to come on and hear how the whole, the whole world is affected by this COVID. Some country got to close down again because of the situation and because people don't want to stick to the protocol and do what they got to do. Some people want to cause havoc in the country and all. I hear something about, I think, not the Bahamas. I think in Guadeloupe. Guadeloupe is one of them country up there. Barking bullet after the police, them the unvaccinated one them. Trying to cause havoc in the country. And it seems to me like that they want the same situation like that come here. But Mark, this country is us, and by right, sometimes we got to put the politics aside. Sometimes we got to put the blind politics aside, Mark. Sometimes we got to put, man, forget about, me not get this, me not get that, me not get that. Your country is yours. Where you want to see your country fall for because your party is not in government. Total ignorance. But brother Mark, I want you to continue to say what you got to say. Do what you got to do. When election time come around, the people at Nevis know the performance of you know what the premier for Nevis, especially in this critical time, and the people will let you back there. And I believe that the people will let back this federal unity government to run this affairs. I think situation right now over this country under, and the whole world under. Brother Mark, you have a wonderful night. May God bless the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Colin Archibald, good night. And good night to my good friend down in Tatola, Jojak. And I want to say good night to my friend Sister Clara over there in Nevis. Spiritual lady, I always say some nice scripture to me and so. And I want to commend her for she Christianity and she goodness. Sister Clara, you take care and continue to do the good work for God. Brother Mark, God bless you.
Good, thank you very much. All right, we have just about 7 minutes left. We're taking your calls. Let's go straight back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Mark, good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
Hey, it's something bothering me. But, and I have about the Four Seasons here, right? I know Nevis people scrabbling. And Four Seasons down there wash out with foreigners. Nevis people can't get a job. They're my ball. What you view on that? Where's the Minister of Labour for Nevis, man?
Well, first of all, that is not true. Because I have been in very close contact, and Four Seasons has been trying to call back a lot of their workers who are not going back. Who are telling them that they've found other jobs, they've started their own business, and then now come back.
Well, in the street, man, I tell you, word on the street, I say.
Well, I don't know about word on the street, because I'm engaged on a daily basis. We have not been approving any work permits for Four Seasons. They have not applied for any. So it means that nobody's coming in from overseas. And Four Seasons has been complaining that a lot of the people are not returning to the hotel now that they're trying to rebuild their workforce.
Man, I have somebody here telling me, man, nothing was done.
Well, all right. Well, if somebody's telling you that, that's a matter for them. But I was in the company of two
Check it out, dog. The people, talk to the people, get into with the people.
All right. Well,
you know, you used to walk down now home, that's a your job. Check it out, mister.
All right. Thank you for that. But I will say to you that I was in the company of some Four Seasons workers just recently. And in fact, they were complaining that they were seasoned workers. And because a lot of their colleagues had refused to come back, they said that they would have to work with a lot of young people coming in who had no experience. And so they were saying it would be a little hard on them. So I'm well aware of that is happening. So I don't know how it is they're saying local people can't find work or get work at Four Seasons, because as far as I know, Four Seasons has been hiring. Now, could there be other reasons why they're not being employed? Of course. Maybe it is that they were working there, the attitude wasn't right, or the approach to the work wasn't right. I can't speak to that. But I can say that as far as I know, Four Seasons has been hiring, and as far as I know, some of the workers they've called back have not returned or decided they will not return. And as far as I know, they have not been granted any work permits by my government and have not applied for any. So I want to make that pellucid this evening. So as I'm concerned in this recovery, our people have to be given the opportunity. Those who have been here in Nevis with us, suffering with us, they must be given the opportunity. And we made that very clear to Four Seasons and in fact to other employers as well, that that has to be the way that we move forward. So call out, my information is radically different to what you're saying, and that has been the experience across the board that I have had. And you say word on the street, I am happy that I don't live in an ivory tower. I spend a lot of time on the street, a lot of time in what I call the trenches. I'm there. I'm sitting on the block. I'm talking to people. That is why I always try my best to get a read for myself about what's going on. So I don't wait until some permanent secretary advised me or somebody advised me in my office. I'm out there and I'm listening and I'm talking to people. So one thing I'll say about me, they could say many things, but I've never lost touch with the people of Nevis. I am there, I'm hearing, I'm listening, and I have no doubt that if the need arises, this government will stand with the people of this island. No doubt. But as I said, that need has not arisen because we've not been presented with any difficulty in that regard. It is 5 minutes to the hour. We have time to take some more calls, 869-469-1616 or 1700 if you want to be a part of this program this evening. This program has been a good program. I think we've had some very good calls. We've had a very respectful discussion. I think that some issues have raised here, which will continue to be raised. And I know that this show is now the show that is dissected and, you know, people use it as the basis for other shows. And there's nothing wrong with that. In a country where you have debate and you have discussion, that is important. I'm told on the other side politically did say at some point that they would call the show and have a conversation with me. They didn't call. I gather later said they didn't say that they would call. They only said that they would call. I'm not quite sure what that means, but that, you know, that is what happens when again there's no seriousness. There is no seriousness. You know, people just decide, man, let me try a thing. You know, this ain't about trying a thing. This is about being serious about, you know, governance is a serious matter, you know. You stay up at nights because when you have the issues, the weighty issues to deal with, you agonize over them. You know, sometimes you're going to make a decision you're not going to please everyone. It's a difficult thing. And you just jump up one morning and say, boy, I'm retired, I got nothing else to do. So let me try this. You know, that is the thing. I hear people lament the fact, oh, no work in Nevis, no work in Nevis, and these people are professionals. And you ask them, well, you can't start a little business and get 2 people work. Oh, I have all the ideas to create jobs in Nevis. I'm going to make sure that all youth in Nevis are out and working, but you not work, and you can't find a job for yourself. But you have all these ideas. Oh, I know about business, I know how to promote business, I know how to get investment, but you never even have a Freco shop. Not even to ask a man what you want on it. You want chocolate or you want strawberry? What you want on your Freco? You never employ a young man to go the ice scoops to create the Freco. You have never contributed anything except wait in government till you get your pension, jump out of government now and say, oh, I am now offering myself and I have all of these ideas, but I'm not going to share them because I don't want nobody to steal them, so I'm not going to share them. I mean, this is what we're getting. And I have no difficulty, as I keep saying, whoever wants to come in, jump in. But if you're going to jump in, let us have a real conversation. A real conversation, not some imaginary thing. Not tilting at windmills like you're Don Quixote. No, a real conversation, because that's what the country needs at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, the band has struck up. It means I have to go. Thank you very much. For all of those who called, for all of those who listened, thank you for making this show what it is. Again, please go out and get vaccinated. Please help us protect each other. Please help us get to a point where we can open our island and feel safe. The tourist season is upon us. I wish you all success. Taxi drivers, tour operators, restaurateurs, whoever you are, I wish you success, that you can make some money in this difficult time. That's our show for this evening. Tomorrow, I'll have my press conference at 10 o'clock. My monthly press conference, another commitment that I've made and a commitment that I've kept. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or